We're ready. Are you ready?
I am ready.
Okay, I'd like to call the meeting to order. Please stand for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So we've got Craig, Siobhan, and Duncan absent with notice. So I'd like to open the public session right now. Public comments at 6:01 p.m. Student recognition, math team. This is Moriarty.
We have some lovely news about our math team. So our math team was first in the Lakes region for small schools for their yearly competitions. There are in the Lakes region, there's small schools and there's large schools.
Who would be a large school? Laconia?
So Laconia, Guilford counts as a large school. So in the category of small school, I think it's Moultonborough, Newfound, Belmont, and Winnisquam and us. So we ranked first, and then we went on to compete at the state level. So I'll read. Mrs. Carney has been the incredible math team advisor at the high school level. So she writes, the high school math team competes in the Lakes Region Math League Small Schools Division. There are 5 regular season meets and the state meet. Interlakes has a long history of strong performance in the league, even being competitive with the large schools. This year, 17 mathletes competed in both team and individual categories: recreational math, algebra 1, geometry, algebra 2, and advanced math. These mathletes are all involved in numerous other co-curricular activities, and I commend them for their dedication to the team. A team of 10 went to the annual state meet and placed an impressive 4th in the small schools for the state for the whole state, against tough competition from 3 independent schools. Thanks to all of the Interlakes faculty, staff, students, and families and administration for their support. Mrs. Carney, math team advisor. And so we do have certificates that we'll send over to the high school to distribute to students, but we wanted to at least publicly acknowledge their accomplishment.
Do you know how many are on the math team?
So there were 17 students.
17. Oh, that's great.
Which is pretty
Most
impressive.
Junior, senior?
So I think 9 through 12.
Wow.
So quite an
I was
accomplishment.
a math team.
So Hollow
Is also on the math team.
on the math team, and he's not here today to give us an update.
Correct.
So we're gonna go right to the minutes. The May 9th regular school board meeting minutes. Motion to approve the minutes of the May 9th regular school board meeting.
Madam
Alright.
Chair, motion to approve the minutes of the May 9th.
And Charlie, second. Is there any corrections or,
I don't know if I saw.
okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
May 11th policy review committee minutes.
You don't typically vote on them, but they're
We
just
don't.
there for awareness.
Okay.
Yeah, just an FYI,
Okay.
so we like how we did this last meeting, which we had, I think we found sort of our sweet spot for the number of items, so we're gonna try to be kind of aggressive here and have some more meetings before the end of this. We have another one on June 1st, and then we've got to talk about another one sometime in June. Get caught up. We're still a little bit behind.
Well, that's great. Thank you for
Yep.
the information. Current bills payable, general operating expenses. Motion to approve the payments of bills manifest 3035, 3036, 3038. All of them.
Second.
Turn. Any questions on the manifests? None. All those in favor of paying the bills?
Aye.
Superintendent, assistant superintendent, report. So you want to go with A?
We have principal reports this evening. And Dr. Downing is addressing some things. And so we have Mrs. Heaton who's going to help out tonight.
I'll sub in for Dr. Downing. She wrote me up a nice little item. So we just finished up our New Hampshire SAS testing. So at the middle high, that's grades 7, 8, and 11. And we have NEWA testing happening this week and next week. And our students and staff have worked really hard to coordinate that effort and to put that together. So we're very appreciative of that. Speaking of the prom, it was at Mara Vista, a great event despite the rain. She said with an after prom party at Fun Spot where students were able to bowl, play games, eat a lot of food in a safe environment. She thanks the chaperones, the families, the businesses that donated time, food, money, and gifts to make the evening so special for the students. And a special thank you to Jocelyn Judge, Mel LePan for their hard work in organizing the prom, and to parent Michelle Goodearl and the after prom committee for organizing and putting together a wonderful after prom night. This week we have Spring Fling, which is a school-wide outdoor barbecue for the students, hosted by Student Council. That's on Thursday, and there'll be activities as well. And we have James McKim from Organizational Ignition in Manchester, who will be at the middle high to meet with a group of students about establishing a culture of respect. Mr. Heyman is taking a group of students whitewater rafting with the outing club this weekend, so we'll hope for good weather. The 712 Marching Band will be performing at the Memorial Day Parade in Meredith and Center Harbor on Monday. And upcoming events for the seniors of the Hewitt Center, there's a farewell graduation night this Thursday at the Colonial Theater. Senior night is June 13th at 6 o'clock in the auditorium. Graduation is rain or shine on Saturday, June 17th at 10 a.m. So shine will be outdoors where we were last year. Rain will be in the gym. So it will definitely be on Saturday, June 17th. And then the scholarship dinner and awards night is coming up as well. Hi. Thank you.
All right. So we got big news in primary multi-age. The chicken eggs hatched on Friday. So baby chicks they went home for the weekend, but then they were back in the classroom today. So primary multi-age working on the life cycle with the baby chicks. Middle multi-age is doing research and writing around inventions. Each of them has picked an invention, researching the kind of the historical significance and then writing about it. Middle multi-age is working on their novel units, and the trout were successfully released into the cold river last week. It was that day that it was like 25 degrees. Yeah, so 8:30, they're in the cold river releasing the trout. It's 25 degrees, but they did it, and it was a success. So I don't know if you're familiar with the trout in the classroom program, but raising trout is not easy. They're really, really finicky. The water has to stay really cold throughout the winter. So Mr. Watson puts a lot of time and a lot of time on the weekends making sure that the trout population stays healthy and strong. 6th grade is getting ready for Mara Vista. So we head off to Mara Vista next week. So we're going to preparations from that. Grades 3 through 6 are SAS testing. Math started today. We wrapped up, or almost wrapped up with ELA, but math started today. Our spring concert is on the 6th at the Sandwich Fairgrounds. And our community barbecue is on the 14th. And I'll just take a minute to say, it's going to be our typical community barbecue, but it's a special one. We will be honoring and recognizing Mrs. Adrian's 22 years of service and Mrs. Booty 32 years of service at that barbecue. So you are welcome to join us. And that should bring us pretty close to the last week of school. Class night is on the 22nd for our 6th graders. Nice. Questions?
What's the date of the barbecue?
14. Yeah. All right. Thank you.
From the land of ILES, as what already been said, we are finishing our New Hampshire state testing as well. Currently, we are completing into makeups and last minute finishers in reading, math, and science. Again, grades 3 through 6. We've just completed our kindergarten screening over the last 2 Mondays, meeting with learners and their families. Learners coming in completed literacy, math, fine motor, and social play activities, while the families met with myself and Steph Howard. We took them through a day in the life video of a kindergarten student. Also got some survey information and did some Q&A, and then we topped it off, of course, what I don't know if it was the students or the families who liked it better, but they all went on a bus ride, which for them was the highlight. We have many field experiences going on. 4th graders had the chance to go to the State House last week. Person in kindergarten are going to the Swan Lake Science Center this Friday. As Jeremy mentioned, our 6th graders are headed to Mara Vista, May 30th through June 2nd, so next week. And other trips we have upcoming, we have grade levels going to the Belknap Mill, Lost River, and the Flume, just to name a few of those. For community events that we've had, we brought back the ever popular student leadership versus staff basketball game. I will say it was about a week ago, and yep, still feeling that. But the staff did win in a nail biter, 36-32. And we also had our PTO spring dance, which was well attended. And our Blobfish Heroes of Asparagus DI team, we had a send-off for them last Friday. You should have seen their faces. It was a secret to them as we walked them up the hill, and the entire student body was on the recess hill as they turned the corner. We had music and there were signs, and it was great there. But they all made it safely to Kansas City, Missouri. Sue Buskett's been phenomenal as the family's sending updates. They're meeting new friends from around the world, sightseeing. I believe in the parade, they were sandwiched in between Indonesia and I'm trying to remember the other state, but it was great for them. They competed yesterday in their Flip the Script challenge. And currently right now, that's why I'm on my phone, is the awards and closing ceremony. So at any minute, we should find out how they do globally. But I can't speak enough to how well the team, the families, and Sue have represented not just ILES, but the school district, and I think the community in general. Just the messages that I've been getting from kids through their families, and Sue and the families in general, even on Friday in the send-off, they couldn't be more appreciative of just everybody's support from the board to staff, teachers, the SAU, just the community partners and the businesses as well. So that's what we have going on at ILES.
Question, Mr. Bryant, I know it's early. Any count on the kindergarten class enrollment?
We had 43, I believe, attend the screening. I believe there are 3 or 4 more this week that had missed it but have signed up, and then there's always about 5 or 6. So hoping we get to 50, it's still, again, lower than the typically 65 to 70 that we've had. So currently right now we have 45 going up to first grade. So continues to kind of look at that trend, that 45 to 50 range.
It is a trend.
Yep.
Thank you.
You got it.
Okay. Youth risk behavior survey highlights.
So we have with us Mrs. Ransom, our outreach counselor, and Mrs. Beaton, our director of guidance. I'm going to turn things over to Lisa. We did include the entire presentation in your packet, but Mrs. Ransom is going to only highlight certain parts. So certainly if you have questions, feel free to ask. She can talk all night about it.
Even that presentation was just a little, so I could really, I promise, I'll just go over the highlights.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
So the Youth Risk Behavior Survey, just a little bit of history. The CDC runs it, and through New Hampshire DOE and New Hampshire Department of Health and Human Services. And it's pretty universal that most high schools in our states, grades 9 through 12, take it. And actually most high schools across the country take it. And it's measures a couple of things: youth-related behaviors and experiences that can lead to injury or death. It sounds pretty dramatic to say it that way. You'll see what I mean when I go on a little bit further. And the results really help us monitor trends, help us planning, programming, community-wise, school-wise. So it's an incredibly valuable tool. All students take this, grades 9 through 12, or have the opportunity to take the Youth Risk Behavior Surveys 9 through 12s. 2 months before, we send a letter out to parents saying this is what it is. Here's a link to the actual survey so parents can review the survey. And they also have the opportunity to opt out. It's a voluntary survey, and they just have to let us know. It's sort of a passive permission. So unless you let us know, the kids will take it, but the students can choose to opt out at any time either. For some kids, it's some of the questions are pretty personal. So we always let them know that they have that opportunity. All the staff, they do it in a small group in one of their classrooms. All the staff are trained on how to make sure it's confidential and anonymous. And it's pretty intense what we do to ensure the confidentiality. We had one student opt out this year. And I think in total, we had 43 students not take it. Again, I'm going down a rabbit hole. aren't I? Okay, we're just gonna do this. So we're gathering three things: youth health, behaviors and conditions, such as the, diet and, obesity, sexual behaviors, substance use behaviors, and student experiences, homelessness, school connectedness. So there's three different categories. And super important, first of all, they help us monitor trends. We have, you can see 10-year trends. You can see what's happening in our school and in schools around us and around the nation and around the state. It also helps us to plan for our programming. And based on the Youth Risk Behavior Survey results in 2017 and 2019 that I've been here, we've really done some great programming based data-driven programming. And then we can measure the results. It's okay like that.
No, you're totally
Okay.
fine. I got it right here. Thank you.
For every question of the 100, this is what you get. You get a full analysis that you could just dive right into. For example, it will show you, purple is our school. Then there's the region, and it's not the Lakes region, it's actually the capital region. It's a little bit bigger than typically what we compare ourselves in, like the Lakes region, and then the state of New Hampshire. So for example, I picked an easy one. Our kids do well with sleep in our district. So how, and the question will be, did you get 8 hours or more sleep on an average school? Do you get 8 hours of sleep or more on an average school night? And this is what our students recorded. This is 2015, all the way through. They started asking that question then. Then you see all the numbers, so not only a graph. Then they break it down, female and male, our school, the region, and the state. And then they break it down even further to 9th, school, region, state, 10th, 11th, and 12th. So you can see that our kids clearly are getting more sleep than kids in the capital region and overall in the state. I'm not going to show you these crazy comprehensive statistics for each question, but I just want you to know, like, you could lose yourself in all this really cool data. So we drill in pretty deep. Based on the Youth Risk Behavior Surveys of 17 and 19, we saw, I start with the prescription drug use. This is the number and percent of students who took a prescription drug without the prescription in their name. OxyContin, Adderall, Ritalin. And as you can see, our students were doing this at a significantly higher rate than the typical teenagers in our area, in our state. We identified this in 2017 and 19 as something we really wanted to work on. We had a community building session with a film and a panel about taking prescription drugs. We had a student in New Hampshire who lost his life. They have an organization and they really help support us in our educating our community. I show this to just say, what, right? Like it, in 2021, we have significantly, the data shows that our numbers of kids who are taking prescription drugs without a prescription have come down significantly. The state of New Hampshire just started the No Safe Experience program. Governor Sununu just put this in an initiative, which is a statewide program to educate families on the use of fentanyl and all prescription and fake pills. In 2021, the state crime lab found 50% more fentanyl in the drug samples that they had than they had just the year before. So it's a significant problem that the state is really taking, and we've received a lot of materials for further education for our families and our students. So we're excited to continue working on this. And let me know if you have questions. I'm kind of like going quick. This was really an exciting thing, a compilation of some slides for you. Our kids are feeling, oh, I want to go back. They took this survey in 2021, in March of 2021. We were deep in the pandemic. In fact, they took this survey with masks on. So when we look at the results of this survey, it really is an interesting outlier, perhaps. I'm not sure. We're so excited to get the 2023 survey results to see where it was. But these kids, it was in the middle of a pandemic when they took this survey. I think what we worried about the most as educators is that we weren't seeing these kids every day, and we were worried about them when they were out in the spring of 2020, worried about what's happening at home. When they came back, this is what they reported to us, that basically staggering amounts of students, greater than or equal to 98% of our students, felt that they were safe at home. They usually slept at home. They never slept away from home due to feeling unsafe. They had enough food. They had shelter. They felt like they were safe at home. And this is significant. I think that this sort of lays the groundwork that our community, our kids are feeling safe at home, which was a huge concern that we were worried about. The data shows otherwise. I'm so curious to see 2023. Yes.
Yeah, and so we just did something about school lunch costs a couple weeks ago, but I know also that in 2021, 2022, school meals were free, and I'm really fascinated to see. This past year, were they free? They were, right?
This past year, 21, 22.
22. So, and
Yes.
what about 22, 23? No.
No.
So I'm really interested to know how that might change.
Well, it's so interesting too. I'm also the school lunch person, so nationally, free and reduced applications went way down. I think that families were used to having free lunch for 2 years, so getting that back up and running, that we did a lot of work to do that, and our numbers were down. And also the default, our outstanding balances are way up. And that's also regionally, statewide, and nationally. So kids are carrying balances on their lunch way higher than they ever have been. So I think that's a huge hiccup from the, so we already have some ideas. I'm on a committee in the Lakes region that's trying to really work on free and reduced lunch applications and SNAP applications, which are direct certified.
Right.
Okay.
And I think that nationally, the data indicated that the school lunch program and the child credits brought down child poverty significantly, the rates of child poverty significantly, and those programs are now gone. So it'll be really interesting to see what happens with those numbers.
Yes.
Anyway.
And we are 47th in the nation, ranked number 47th with regard to the number of families who are eligible for free and reduced lunch, who actually apply and participate in that program.
Oh my goodness.
Can you explain that a little bit more? I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time following it. We're 47th.
Of 50 states.
Out of 50
So
states.
That's really bad.
Really bad.
Yeah, okay.
It's really
That's what I
bad.
thought.
And they aren't applying because often people don't feel like, I mean, it's awkward to apply, right? So we're 47th out of 50 states.
47th. We've got work to do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
anyway,
Well, I will
sorry for
say
that
though, we
diversion.
do work with Got Lunch, and they do supply a lot of lunches in the summer.
Yes.
So
And
is
we have
that-
had, sorry, I was going to say, we've had donations to help offset those balances that
Good.
Mrs. Ransom was talking about. So a very generous community. Got Lunch is a
It's great.
major
Mhm.
It's amazing.
piece of keeping families stable and food stable.
We just sent those applications out today.
Good,
Here we go, right?
excellent.
It's wonderful. This also was something, I'm giving you kind of the good news first, getting you all pumped up, right? This was something that I thought jumped out that was amazing. Something that we work on a lot is bullying and anti-bullying education and campaign. Our students, this is the number of students who were ever electronically bullied. Our school was significantly lower than the region in the state. And I think and again, this was during the pandemic when we were most afraid of what was happening out there. We had little control because kids were at home. So this this is good news for our community and our students. Again, little visual for you. I couldn't help it. Couldn't help myself. I had to show a little visual. This is a frightening statistic. Our kids are about the same nationally or statewide. 80% of our students spend 3 or more hours a day on electronic devices. I just heard this morning, I don't know if anyone listened to NPR this morning, but the Attorney General was saying that any more than 3 hours of per day on screen, statistically, they have proven that it doubles a student's development of anxiety, depression, and negative body image, body. So we've got work to do for sure. A second thing that, well, this is while the kids are feeling safe at home, they're not bullying so much, they're eating well, their physical exercise, our kids' mental health is in crisis. And I think that that's probably no surprise to anyone in this room, but we have data to back this up. In 2021, we have, like our peers in our neighboring communities, our students' mental health significantly. So the question is, have you felt sad or hopeless for more than 2 weeks consecutively in such a manner that you've stopped doing things that you typically do? And over almost 50% of our students are saying that that's the case in 2021. This is female and male, 9, 10, 11, 12. Another thing that adds to our need for mental health care is that this is a new question this year. So we don't have any statistics, we don't have any trend data on this, that 58%, pretty typical of all of our students, said that they never or really got help they needed when they felt sad, empty, hopeless, angry, or anxious. So these kids are feeling these feelings in significantly increased amounts, yet they never, and I'm not quite sure if they sought it out or they sought it out and they never really got it. The question is kind of interesting to me, but 60% of kids, 6 out of 10, were not able to access that help. Again, this is the first year they asked that question, so I don't know this well. This is where we get concerned because teenage suicide ideation is rising, but you can see that it gets to a point where they ever seriously considered attempting suicide. Over the pandemic, you can see that the number significantly, not only in our community, but in our state in general, jumped, were increased significantly. And even more so, those who actually not even considered suicide at feeling helpless and sad, hopeless, they made a plan. And when you're in counseling, that's when you go to warp speed, is when kids are at this point. And again, come back to 6 out of 10 of them felt like they couldn't have anyone to talk to. So again, they just started asking this question in 2019, and we are just chomping at the bit to see what the 2023, we're hoping like, that was just because it was pandemic, right? Right? Like, so we're anxious to get those. So I swing us back in 2019, we had 3 priorities. 1, the sad and helpless. Our percentage was 30% of our kids in 2017 felt sad and hopeless for 2 weeks at a time. 40% in 2019, 48% in 2021. Percentage of students who felt they had no caring adult to talk with, 30% in 2021, which is down from 50% in 2019. That was our fear. Kids were sad. 1 out of 2 of them felt like they didn't have an adult to talk to, one trusted adult in their life. And now we're down to 30%. And the prescription drugs use these were the three areas that we identified as a community that we wanted to work on. That was down in the prescription drug use without a prescription was down from 15% in 2019 to 5% in 2021.
Do you want to speak a little bit about why you think number 2 went down? That was an area that you focused.
Yes, we focused on, we did a great deal of training with the staff in our building and the staff in our district about their office hours people, about they meet weekly with students, a small group of students. We also trained a group of faculty and faculty, staff, and students on suicide prevention. And so we had a group of faculty and we presented to faculty. Also, the state required that in the last 2 years as part of all staff, faculty, professional development. Faculty, staff, cafeteria workers, custodians, bus drivers, everyone had an incredible amount.
Every year, 2 hours of suicide prevention training.
So we feel like this really brought it to the forefront that this was our top priority, that kids had one trusted adult. We also have a one trusted adult curriculum that we use, social emotional learning curriculum that we use at the middle high school. And certainly at the elementary school, I know that there have been presentations, but their social emotional learning is about trusted adults as well. So we really feel like we've worked really hard on that one. So again, context, pandemic. So I feel like I really would love to be doing 21, 23 instead of 19, 21. But we'll come back. The best, I'll finish this slide. Areas of improvement. They're making good decisions. They're about their physical wellness. When you look at the whole survey, they're sleeping well. We saw that. Decreased drug use, good sleep, they're eating well, they're feeling safe, right? So the basic needs are okay. Again, our major area of concern that just jumped out of the survey results is that our kids' mental health is in crisis. And we need to do a lot as the adults in our community to become more educated and aware. And in 2023, when our results come out in the fall, this is a really exciting endeavor. We are working with an organization called Getting to Why, where you have a group of students. We're working with Plymouth High School, Newfound, and and we have a group of students that are going to be trained. They're going to dig into the 2023 results, all 100 questions, and they're going to identify what the areas of strength, what the areas of growth are, where we struggle, and we're going to have them, they're going to be trained through Getting to Why with all these other schools, and they're going to present to our parents, to their peers, to you folks, what I'm doing. So I'm going to let them do it because it's way more interesting when they talk to you, right? And to help them. Oh, I also wanted to tell a story. After we just took the 2023 youth risk behavior survey a couple months ago, I'm walking down the hall and a senior walking with a senior. I said, "Hey, thanks for doing that. I know that's a lot." And he was like, "Actually, I was reading these questions and it was like, have you ever not slept at home because you're afraid of your safety? Do you have enough food?" He said, "For the first time, I looked around the room and I thought, man, there are kids in this room that are experiencing that." He said, "And I guess I never really thought about it because I experienced none of that." He said it was really interesting. And I thought that is a huge piece of it, where we can have kids just start to feel empathy for each other, that so many of our students struggle in so many areas. Grades 9 through 12, these are the stats. Feelings of sad and hopelessness, an increase in 20% in 2 years in females and 35% in males. Learners who have considered suicide, an increase of 33% of our kids in 2 years. Learners who have made a plan for potential suicide, increase of 40%. So while our need for mental health care and our need for reaching out to our students and really helping those with the most need is our top priority for sure.
And to be clear that this is the 19 to 21,
Yes.
and and you've done the 23 surveys, but we don't have the data back yet.
No, it's so interesting because usually you take them in the spring and then you get the results in the fall. The 2021 survey, oh my God.
Oh, that was a very long wait.
We just got them, right?
Oh.
We just got them on the, and then like 2 weeks later, we get the 2023. So it was a long time in coming and we were waiting. And so it's almost like this is kind of historical data and especially within the context of the pandemic.
Yeah, right.
So we're really looking forward to the 2023, which will come in the fall. They promised us.
The CDC may have been.
Yeah, that's true.
No, things are being compartmentalized, but maybe they had to tap into people for other things.
So again, increased mental health services would be family communication, awareness, and education, and then the impact of wellness in our student social emotional learning curriculum, I think has really been obvious in our results with the kids making better decisions. I really think that has come from the counselors and the health classes and the faculty, with this stuff being our top priority. I want to give a little plug, DHHS helped us with all of this information, questions, thoughts.
So, Ms. Ransom, basically, this is our guide, and we have a lot of really good resources within our schools. And now this is telling you how you're planning for implementing all those resources. So those things that we've had success on, I'm assuming we can pull back maybe a little bit. You got to maintain, but is that right?
For sure. I think our big focus has been bullying and the prescription drug use and the suicide prevention. So I think that this prescription drug use, although we have no safe experience, that is flooding our, we have all those resources now that we'll keep doing. But I think that our biggest one, which is kind of an umbrella one, is the mental health. If we can address that, I feel like so many other things will just fall into place. And that's a huge assumption on my part, but I feel like that's our.
And later on the agenda this evening is just to begin a conversation about the growing roots, and resource that we've had this year, and looking at continuation and potential cost of that. And that has played a significant role in having access to licensed mental health workers who can really do much deeper work than we're able to do at the school counseling level.
My only concern is that using the 21 data, which unquestionably is aberrative, and history 20 years from now may show how aberrative that 21. We don't have pandemics on a regular basis. The depth and breadth of the impact of that is yet to be known. So I would only warn that as you get your 23, look at it kind of with the eye of, boy, it doesn't line up with 21, and why?
Right. And you can even see the 21s weren't lining up with the 13, 15, 17, 19s.
Right.
You know, the 21s were like, whoop, whoop. Even like the bullying that we're so excited was so much lower may in fact have been just a blip, right? Like, so we're so curious to see the 23 for sure. Yeah. And I'm glad we won't have to wait long. Hopefully it'll be September.
Yeah, but then you'll wait baitedly for the 25.
The story of our life, right? Thank you.
Thank you.
Very much.
Thank you.
Anytime, any questions, just let me know.
Mrs. Ransom, I'm sorry, but you mentioned the correlation between anxiety, depression, and technology. And I was just reading that, you know, they've got longitudinal data right now, and it just, I think it's worth mentioning because for whatever reason, this topic is on my brain a lot lately. Longitudinal data showing that the anxiety in teenagers and the depression in teenagers has increased dramatically since the invention of the smartphone and widespread social media use. And I don't know how we put this genie back in the bottle at this point, right? But it does, you mentioned it, and it does concern me about the mental health, the role that this is playing in our young adults, and how we might address that. So I just put that out there as food for thought. So thank you.
Thank you.
I would just like to thank Mrs. Ransom.
Thank you.
Very
Really
very
informative. She's an incredible asset to our school district. And it's, very, very grateful for her work. We appreciate that.
No, Duncan and I may want to get together with Officer True, with Ms. Ransom, because I made a couple other observations and just seeing this.
That would be great.
Think about this. a little
Yep.
bit.
That'd be super.
Okay. Is there any questions online from anybody?
Great
I
question.
just don't know.
Oh, I've been refreshing it. Maybe just go to that screen. There's been zero activity.
Okay, just wanted to make sure.
So
Yeah.
tired.
Financial update. Go. Have a hand up.
Copy.
Thank you.
Okay.
So, you have kind of, current status of, funds available, next month.
End of fiscal year.
Correct, to consider making some decisions about. So we're just over, at this stage, 500,000 that would be available for school board consideration of certain items and things that you may want to carry forward those funds. That does not include the $250,000 for the warrant article that was for the Facilities Expendable Trust. That will come out of the revenue side. This is the expenditure side. So,
So does that mean we have $250,000 instead of $500,000?
no, it means you have, that's taken out of a different section
Okay.
in terms of the revenue side. I will only confuse you if I go into depth on it this evening. There's a revenue stream, the 250,000 for the warrant articles will come out of that. This is not a revenue stream. But it looks at this stage, we anticipate that you will have just over $500,000 to make some decisions about.
And the choices, first and foremost, return it,
That's always a choice,
encumber it,
correct?
and can only go out through the next school year
Correct.
out of these kinds of funds. But do we not have some ESSER threes, and where will they carried out to 24 if I'm not
So
mistaken?
your ESSER funds, pretty much are all accounted for at this stage
Okay.
because of the ventilation as well as the class size reduction feature that was recently done for the upper multi-age and sandwich. So we're getting pretty close to that money all being accounted for. But we can bring you an update next month on the ESSER grants, and where they're at this point.
I'd like to see choices.
Yep, perfect. So I think next month you'll have a chance to make more decisions and we can get deeper into the revenue side at that point.
I understand it now. I just see the little box down at the
It's,
bottom.
the revenue gets very,
Yeah, right.
very confusing. For the pure mathematician who just thinks numbers are.
Don't make fun of us. You're one of us.
I do, I think the pure mathematician, it's the accountants who have different ways of looking at it.
The
So,
magic of accounting.
yes,
Yeah.
so we will work on the primer that I am being given behind the scenes to make sure that I can provide you good information.
Okay. Correspondence, superintendent, board secretary, board members? None?
Nope.
Old business, 2022, 2023 fund balance, athletic infrastructure, 225,000. Oh my God, there's a tick on it. Oh my God. Sorry.
No, I've had
Kill
no
it.
ticks since we did it.
Thank you. Oh,
You're not
God.
gonna get it that way. Scotch
No.
tape is the
Scotch
best.
tape.
Oh, no, that sucker's dead.
I think Mr. Carson just went to grab something to remove it.
Oh,
I'm sorry, I'll tell him to stay home. I'll tell him transfer.
sorry about that. Okay, including architecture, study of locker rooms, that's attachment 6. Motion to approve expanding the fund balance to include architecture, study of other spaces within the school district up to 40 hours at $165 an hour for a total of $6,600.
Madam Chair, I make that motion.
I'll second.
We have discussion on this.
Last meeting we did.
We did.
Yeah, I remember the 6600.
No, do we have, It's right here.
It's dead, but we couldn't.
I don't
remove
know.
it.
Just
I
get rid
never
of it.
believe they're dead.
Thank you for your help.
Do you want to save it as?
No, it's still
Just leave the whole
moving.
tape
It's
there.
still moving.
Doesn't
Oh,
look like
just
a
leave it
deer.
there on my document, Mr. Billy?
Yes.
Okay, fine. There it is.
On your document,
Here, I'll give you a tape.
that's
I come in here.
technical difficulties, sorry. Okay,
We have a
So-
motion,
yeah, I have a couple questions on this.
but I don't know if it was it seconded?
It
Yes, I
was
seconded
seconded. I have Charlie second.
Not Nancy.
It was Nancy?
I did.
Okay. So my only concern is, spending another $6,600 and then what the cost is of looking at those other rooms that we've outlined could be an even greater number. And so my concern is this started just to do the locker room area and now it's kind of morphing into more. And I'm just trying to be wary of spending extra money and trying to be a good steward of the taxpayers' money. So I feel like, is this really a necessity?
Have we spent the whole 225,000?
No, you
So-
have spent, the April dipstick was just over $20,000 on the,
Well, that's just the architectural,
correct,
but the 225,000, that number could get,
put towards building.
but it could be even more money once we do the 6,600, correct? Or is
My
that,
question was, if that's a small enough amount, can you wrap it into the 225?
That is I think that is what I'm requesting. So
Yeah.
of the 225, I'm asking for up to $6,600 to be used for the other spaces.
So in regard to your question, Lisa, I don't think it is a mistake to look at those extra spaces now for that amount of money, because we're not necessarily doing anything with them. We're just getting the architectural drawings, and there is at least one issue, which is the trainer's room, right?
Correct.
That was not accommodated at all. And maybe there's a solution when they look at this as a whole that wouldn't cost too much, that they could put within a budget. I don't know, sometimes these things sit on the shelf, and this could, because this is gonna be a very expensive project. But in the end, we have a choice about what we're including in the final project. So having these plans drawn up, to me, doesn't, it does make some sense.
Yeah, I think that we started this locker room discussion pre-pandemic. We started this locker room project prior to the whole bathroom saga that we are living right now. So considering the convergence of those forces, I don't see adding 6,600. It may end up even saving us money on the physical project.
So it's not adding 6,600, it's taking it out of
Absorbing
the
it.
225.
it's taking it out of the money that we have towards the locker room?
That's,
My thought is that, it's a planning tool. And I think it's pretty short money for the amount of good information we can get that could help us plan for the future, because we all know this is gonna be, the original goal is not gonna be a small ticket item. But it causes other issues. We have other issues with spaces in school. It's my 2 cents.
I just wish the 3 other board members were here for the discussion.
in case,
I know.
got a quorum.
We already approved the 225.
No, we already approved
And we're
that.
not making a change in the amount that we've already approved. We're just,
Well, we're taking away money towards that. But yeah, I mean, I see what you're saying as far as planning. Craig did make the comment, though, do we really need an architect for some of those spaces and not just a construction person?
I think that it is helpful for our facilities department to have some support with drawings and planning. Otherwise, a lot of that ends up falling on the facilities director, and there's a finite amount of time and energy to manage and design and build. And that does become pretty taxing.
And the architects will know that this is the amount, they knew this is the amount we had before now, and this is the amount we have before, and the scope has changed a little bit. At this point in a process, changing a scope this little, I think is, anyway.
We have the dollar, the
Yeah.
hourly rate, so
Right.
I think we feel,
Yeah,
I think in limiting it, it's only 40, up to 40 hours on this stuff.
right. Anyway.
Okay, we ready to vote?
Aye.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Sorry. Okay, hiring update.
Just wanted to share with you that we have a hiring update, and we do have Mrs. Dollop is here this evening, our Human Resource Director. And I want to thank everyone, all of our principals and members of our teaching staff who participated in hiring. We're doing very well in terms of closing our openings. And tonight you do have before you one nomination, which will bring us even closer.
Is there a motion to
So moved.
approve the professional staff? Carly?
Thank you.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Proposal increase of time, action item, Mrs. Moriarty.
So you have attachment 8. So we are proposing that the secretary position at Sandwich Central School be changed. So we're not adding a position, we're changing the position to administrative assistant. And the change would be 205 days to 220 days. And then the duties would certainly be more reflective of an admin assistant. So that is for Sandwich Central School. And we are also proposing, there are 3 options here for the board's consideration. We have a retirement, Ariane Shuffleton, who has been an amazing caretaker of the greenhouse for since it was conceptualized and built. And it is time to pass the gardening tool. And so looking for what model would the board like to entertain for the future to sustain the living classroom. So there are 3 proposals there. One involves a current staff member who has expressed interest, is at 90%, would consider taking it on as if an additional 0.1 was added. Another one is to look at it straight as a stipend. And that may be, again, I think all of them have some level of volunteer recruitment or
Yes.
participation. So option 2 is, completing the responsibilities, but also working with volunteers. Option 3 might be the harder one. It's really someone who is just coordinating a volunteer force to keep it going. And that can get kind of complicated, but something for the board's consideration.
I have to speak to this because I feel like option 3, it would be great because it would involve, somebody from the community that would be, maybe part of the garden club or, I think it's great for community building. I just think that would be a great option for us.
I like the fact, I'm going to differ from Lisa, because the Garden Club and I've always been president for the last 3 or 4 years and involved, and they came to me and said, we can help. Key words being, we can help.
Right.
Not necessarily run the program.
No, I'm not saying run the program, it's a
But
stipend.
I would suggest you can find those people locally.
Yeah.
In fact, they're the ones this time of year that have been over on the side of the road.
Right, right.
Anybody have any other thoughts on it?
Yeah, I'm kind of leaning toward option 2 because, we also have a garden program in Sandwich. And, it's really hard to find the, it takes somebody who it gets more than $2,500 a year to do this, to manage all the volunteers and, you know, understand the program. And it's, so I'm kind of in favor of the middle option for that reason. Somebody on staff, maybe who knows the kids and understands the greenhouse and can then help manage, because I think we can help means, you know, there may be volunteers there for you to call on.
But I think, aren't these stipends somebody within the school?
Well, a
working
stipend
the
could be somebody outside the school, like for athletics, we do have people, but you don't have to be
Okay.
you become an employee. I think that's the reality.
The hiring process.
Right, they have to go through the
Right,
hiring process.
Right.
If you get hired and they take on the responsibility.
I thought the volunteering option 3 was an outside volunteer for a small stipend. But
So it's really someone who's coordinating the
Somebody who's
volunteers.
whoever it is,
Right.
in the school or outside.
And sometimes it's
Correct.
in the school already, could be a teacher.
The idea would be, here's the list of responsibilities, get volunteers to sign up, make sure they show up and do it.
Does the time that Ms. Shuffleton was allowed to spend equate something to this?
So she, if you look at the description, she did about 172 hours, which a 0.1 of a is about 3.25 hours a week, in a 40-week school year. That's over 120. So it's, I would say it was more than the 0.1.
But it's mainly spring and fall, right?
Correct, in summer. I mean, you know, it really,
In summer,
the
right.
summer definitely becomes a piece. You know, the winter is more dormant. And she did lay it out by the months, what happens. You can see April, May, you know, those are pretty intense months, which you would expect.
I think I'd lean to option 2 as well.
So somebody make the motion.
I'll make a motion to approve Sandwich Central school change from secretary to administrative assistant, and option 2 for the caretaker responsibilities for the living classroom at Inner Lakes Elementary School.
Second.
Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you for your support. We will report back next year on how the model worked, right, Mr. Bryant? We'll come back with maybe something blooming.
So the next is the Interlinks middle high school main entrance sign update.
So you have in your packet the options that we have provided previously. Mr. Swanter we were asked to get a price on, I'm sorry.
Oh, no.
To get a price on Daktronics for an electronic sign, and we were able to speak with someone about that, Brian. Could you share what you learned?
Yep, I went to the electronic sign dealer and I just priced up the comparable sign that I had priced for the other sign company, and they were basically the exact same price. That's file.
So you were kind of comparing the model for the watch fire to the Daktronic, and they came in about the same. Okay.
Little bit exact.
And I know that we did get a suggestion.
I actually talked to somebody too, yet somebody in Massachusetts that represented Daktronics, and I got a different pricing structure, which I handed you before the meeting. So I don't know if you had time to review it, but I think on the sign, I would like to say something, because the original sign was actually a gift and was presented from the Interlakes boosters. It wasn't using school funds. And I just have a hard time with spending that kind of money that we're looking at, because it wasn't done that way. You know, it was presented to us as a gift from the boosters, which was like the PTO back then. So my feeling is this kind of money is a lot of money that we're talking about. And I think that maybe giving them an opportunity to kind of do some fundraising to offset I mean, the price that I got for the electronic sign was about 19,000, and it was 6,900 for the other sign, that went along with it, and it was, I thought, a very nice looking sign. And it was a lot less money, so I guess, the sign that, the sign that I got, I talked to the person at the sign company, and he said because of where you're located, being on Route 25, you didn't need a really, tight resolution pixelation because you're far enough away. If you were there closer up, then yes, you would need that. But because you were on the street, you don't really need that tight of resolution. So I'm in favor of like looking at, alternatives for pricing and maybe doing some fundraising to offset the pricing.
Ellen? I don't think we're disrespecting whoever gave us that first sign, because if we aren't replacing it with a brand new sign, it is in essence visible exactly the way it was.
Yeah.
Especially if you stayed with brick. The only difference would be the 2-line or 3-line electronic message board, which is done manually now versus that. That's 40,000 on
Well, the one
the
I
estimates that Brian has gotten, you've gotten the
I
lower
got
one.
19, but then they charge to put the whole sign, both signs up is 10 grand. Well, it's still a big difference.
Oh, it's still a huge difference, but I mean,
Huge. Like,
I'm just feeling a little bit uncomfortable in terms of, I don't even know how to phrase this, the role of the school board
mhm.
and the role of management in this kind of a situation. I think if we want to ask Brian to do more research on
I think so. Yeah.
besides the one thing, that's one thing, but I don't know that we should be out looking for options. I think the description of what's needed
Mhm.
can make a difference. Anyway, it just feels a little bit uncomfortable.
Yeah,
I'm
No, I
chair of
understand.
another board at another school, and we're always struggling with those
it's the money
kinds
that
of
I'm
things. So,
having
and I
issue with.
agree about the money, but
100,000,
if
70,000.
we
a lot.
looked at, I'm confused, Brian, by the picture that has the 6 feet and the 3 feet and the 2, is that anything we should be,
Just give you some dimensions.
so that's all.
That's all.
But,
Yeah.
but in other words, option 2 last time was keeping the bricks. Right?
It's changed.
So, and that's just,
So on option 2, it would still be that 6x8
gotcha,
sign and a
okay.
message board of 3x8.
So really, we're just, if we went with option 2, which I was more inclined to do with an electronic sign and bricks than the fancy stonework, that was cheaper. But what I hear Lisa suggesting is just, can you broaden the research on costs of the electronic sign and get it down as far as you can? I don't know what you need from us tonight in order to.
So what I think I'm hearing is the board would like some more, maybe options,
Right.
pricing.
Options.
And we can certainly plan to do that. I don't know if you want a proposal regarding fundraising.
I just feel a little bad. I don't think we need to be taking 50 hours a week of Brian's time
Right.
chasing down sign stuff. That being said, Nancy's point, I think we should tell Brian, yes, we're gonna budget $30,000, or
Right.
whatever that figure is.
$50,000 or whatever.
And then if he comes back with
Mhm,
options
mhm.
and it's more than that, we could go to the community and do what you're suggesting, Lisa.
Yeah.
That's good.
So originally it was, I think, $40,000
$40,000.
that was encumbered, right?
Correct.
Yeah, that's correct.
So that's what,
Or maybe the option is just do the regular actual replacement of what it is. And a side thing could be for the community to take on the electronic sign. And just, because that design allows for pulling the
Right.
manual one out to replace it with a electronic, right?
Possibly, I'm not quite sure how, I mean, in my mind, we were demoing the old one and setting 2 new ones with a crane same day.
Okay.
So, if the way they hook, it kind of looks like it's floating, it's not like a bolt on. there's space all around it, so that, you know, it's kind of a hidden fastener, and I'm not 100% sure if we could do the bottom. We may be able to, though, maybe prep for that and go just with the top route. The real cost difference is really just based on what resolution, if you desire electronic sign, you have to choose what resolution you would like, and it starts at the highest cost, then it goes down for sure, but we could perform a demonstration to show different resolutions. We could pick a night and do that.
This is the resolution that was 19,000. It was much less.
Okay.
You can pass it down. You can pass.
I mean, it's great. It's a picture, you know?
Yeah.
I mean,
you have to see
unfortunately,
it. We could-
some of these things are,
We could set up some demos.
Yeah, demo would be, and then
Yeah.
decide. Because if you're going single color and letters only, then that is a less cost. We're looking towards possibly having photo quality postings up there, student activities or teams, or it's just the best display you could get if you desire to use it that way.
And that's what you priced.
Yeah,
I see.
The one that was built into there was a 8mm LED outdoor
With photo
display.
possibilities and everything.
Yes, correct. Color, if you desire, things like that. So if you step down from there, just the price does come down.
So and the cost that you gave us for option 2, it was, how much was that at the last meeting? I forget.
Electronic was 39,000.
Yeah,
39.
electronic comes in at 39.
So
Just
it
for
was
that piece.
40,000 plus 39 more, right? So, it'll be some additional expense to do an electronic. I'm disinclined, I think myself, just to have it be the regular one and at some other point upgrade to electronic. I think my sense is if we do it, plus I don't know if I'd vote money in if you already have something. If we went out to fundraise and said, we need $40,000 to do this, I could be wrong, but it sounds like kind of a hard sell to me. I don't know, but
Microbots, we'll hire them.
No. I mean,
yeah. I don't know. I think I would be inclined to give Brian more money, but not maybe the whole additional 38,000.
I sort of like Charlie's suggestion of doing 30,000 and seeing.
well, we've already done the 40.
Right.
Right.
It's there. It's in the budget.
Then
Let's do the 40
I feel like not
That's what
going
we're
over
gonna
that
work with.
amount.
and
And no
Without
additional.
contribution.
Right. I mean,
I think we're all in favor of the electronic sign.
I'm in favor of the electronic sign
Just not the
because the
price.
price tag is pretty hefty. And as far as photographs, I mean, as long as we're getting the word out there, like congratulations, math team, or, you know, I don't think we need photographs. I think it's a lot of money to spend on that, personally.
so I would suggest one. I'd be willing to make a motion, or this seems to be such a discussable topic. Perhaps we want to wait till the rest of the board is here for this topic.
I feel the same way.
That's fine, table.
And if you could, if there's a way to just give us a sense of what you could do with $40,000.
I think you
Has
have.
electronic,
Yeah,
well, that has electronic.
We can look at lower grades of the electronic signs, and I think that's
Yeah.
where
I think
maybe
that's
at the next meeting,
At the
having
next-
So there
some demo.
wasn't anything else in that $40,000 that we already approved. We'd already approved, right?
We approved the 40,000.
Right, so there wasn't anything else in that except an electronic sign?
No, it includes there's repairs to the brickwork that needs
Right,
to happen,
And then
electrical,
this sign is.
and that one.
Yeah, so there's more in there, so.
The package with that, with the brick, with electronic was like 70.
It's
Right.
over 70,000.
Right, so if we said just use the 40, we're not getting the electrical. Right?
No,
I
we're
think
not-
we
could.
can look
I
at
think
lower
we-
grade
If you
options
did
for
a
the
lower
electric.
grade,
Go back to the drawing board and,
yeah.
could work within that constraint, and yeah, we can see what I can do.
So
The only thing I will say is you get what you pay for too, many times. So
Yeah,
I think be realistic, I don't think we aren't gonna get an electronic sign with $40,000.
No, you would
We're
get
gonna have
one
to
for
come up with a
19,000. I had one at my store in Holderness by Daktronics, and it's still there 15 years later playing strong. So I'm just saying it's a good company. I'm just saying that what he priced out is very different than what I priced out. I'm looking at a lower, pixel resolution, which he told me, because of where the sign is located, you can definitely get away with that, and the legibility will be fine.
Well, again, I'd like Brian.
I know, I'm just saying, I agree. That would be something that I would like to see, other options.
So where are we in the motion? We have a motion and a second?
I think we decided we were gonna wait till the rest of the
So
board
I
was
think what I
here.
understand is we are to bring back, options within the $40,000 range.
That's the goal.
Yeah,
goal.
And if there's an electronic component, that we would bring a demo of what that would look like for that cost.
so we need to break apart the original motion though, because the original motion had both of those. Oh, no, we did that one already.
No, that was.
So I think you
So
wanted to just
Okay.
table it.
We're kicking the can down the road.
Yeah, let's table it until the rest of the board is here. In the meantime, Brian can get us.
It's only a week or 2 weeks.
We'll be here soon.
2 weeks. Right? It's 2. Okay. Under new business, data privacy plan.
We'll turn things over to Mr. Parsons. So just while Mr. Parson loads it up, this is a requirement that the board approve it on an annual basis. And we typically do it in the spring.
Want to make this larger. I don't know what I can.
That's all right. More rolling it. All right, good evening. You don't have this handout, and I apologize for its size. Here's a new version for you.
Thank you.
So as
Quick to find.
Mrs. Moriarty mentioned, annually, we review and seek approval for our data governance plan. So last year, I presented that to the team, and I shared with you electronically the document that I handed out this evening. I also shared with you electronically a short video that sort of reviews the overview of the data governance plan. Because of what is in the plan, the context itself, if you have specific questions regarding the plan, we do that in non-public. As I shared with you, some of the main changes this year were purely due to changes in staff and because we changed our webpage. So changing the webpage caused the need for me to update some of our links and then our contact information. So I just wanted to highlight that Brendan Hardy moved on to a wonderful position, and he was our system admin network person, essentially. So Patty Coase, who's been a long time soldier for us, moved into that role, and she has a great amount of experience because of the thought partnering that she did with Mr. Hardy for a long time. So her title is system admin, but her main responsibility is ensuring the network and its integrity. And she also is continuing portions of her previous role where she does a tremendous amount of integration between our student and staff data to all the technology resources that we use educationally. Brian Nordemo just joined us last week. So he is in his second week as an employee for us. So since Patty shifted roles, it left the vacancy. So his position is a technology assistant 2. So he comes with a lot of experience working in contracts, former law enforcement, interest in cybersecurity, cyber forensics. So we're going to tap into his knowledge base and his experience and his outside lens to help us look at the integrity of our systems as we move forward. He's brand new, so it's been good getting to know him. And I think you met James last week or last meeting in my absence. James was here. James is a local. He grew up in Molten Barrow, studied computer science, and he joined us this year as our technology assistant one. We refer to him as our first responder. He actually does dispatch for us. All of our tickets that come in where people are requesting help, copier help, computer down, he distributes that to who needs to respond. 9 times out of 10, it's him because that's his role. And that has worked out for us, and that allows Patty and I, if we're working on a project, to continue thinking on that project, and James is running around between the buildings that we serve. So those are really just the updates in the data governance plan. I did this so well when Ms. Eaton was presenting. All I had to do is switch
Oh,
the
look,
tab.
there you go, yeah.
It's weird when I'm in control. That's the problem.
So comforting, you're in charge of technology.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of
It's like
things
a
I'm
gift.
juggling with recording the meeting and everything. I'm not sure if you want me to replay the video that I shared with you electronically of the overview of the data governance plan.
I did watch it.
I did watch it.
Okay, all right. Well, that's
Very
great.
helpful. I thought we had to.
Yeah, well, it's I prefer to give you that information if you had the opportunity prior to the meeting. So if there were questions that you had regarding the plan, we could address those as needed. So that's the end of my presentation. I just put some links for me to access if we needed it. So at this point.
So if you have specific questions, that would be in non-public. If you're comfortable, we would ask that you approve the data privacy plan.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you for your
Thank you
support.
for all the
And
hard
thank you to Mr.
Thank you.
Parsons and
Thank you,
Mr.
Mark.
Parker for their incredible work.
Okay. Growing Roots Licensed Mental Health Services discussion. Attached.
Yes. We have had a good partnership with Growing Roots. Last year, the board did support encumbering $115,000 at the end of the year to support this. As you can see from the youth risk behavior survey, this continues to be an area of concern for us. One of the things that we have learned from Growing Roots is it's not a sustainable model for them financially. Insurance companies end up reimbursing at such different rates that they're actually losing money versus covering the cost of what they're paying the employee. So they would like to continue to provide the service, but not utilize insurance. Interim, we've had our rate this year for a clinical hour was $105, changed to 140 hours. $140 an hour, sorry. And also looking at expanding the number of slots. This year we worked to have 25 slots a week, going to 30. You see at 0.5, 30.5. That 0.5 that would fluctuate because they might attend an IEP meeting. They might support something with a parent meeting or something that we need some extra time throughout the year. And using a week after school gets out to transition students, supporting students during summer school, and then like a running start to the opening of the school year, which can be a pretty highly anxious period of time. So, that comes to a total of almost $200,000. We budgeted $125,000. So that's, certainly over by $70,000. This evening, my goal was to present this to you to where we're at. I think obviously you saw with the youth risk, that this is an area that we definitely find the need to have access to such skilled help. You have also in your handout, it seemed to be helpful for the board to just have a visual of what we have for resources relative to school counseling. So it's attachment 9, and it's the page of attachment. We have, our guidance director who also has a caseload. I think that's important to recognize, but does supervise our guidance program, which is pre-K through 12th grade. And then we have our outreach counselor who works pre-K through 12th grade. And 2 other school counselors at the middle high. We did a few years back now change to a 7 through 12 model. We had a 7-8 guidance counselor, and then we had 9 through 12 counselors. We felt it was beneficial for kids to have a school counselor who stayed with them for their journey from 7th grade to 12th grade. And that has been positive, making those relationships with families. We have Sandy Spiro, is a 0.5 school counselor at Sandwich. The board has supported that transition. We used to share part of one of the ILES counselors with Sandwich. And again, with the growing mental health needs, how do we make adjustments? And that was one of the adjustments the board supported initially through ESSER funds and then through the budget process. So we have 2 full-time counselors at ILES. One of the goals this year at ILES was to increase social and emotional learning experiences for students. In the past, the counselors would do like a 6-week stint with classes and then move on to another group of classes and do a 6-week stint. They changed the model this year, so every other week throughout the year, they're teaching, they're doing social emotional lessons, which are empathy, conflict resolution, how do you what do you do with anxiety? How big is your worry? Those kind of things. And having that happen all year long, I think we're seeing the benefit of that rather than a clustered point in time and then moving to another group in a clustered point in time, because it's really allowing kids to kind of develop those skills throughout the year. They're kind of growing with their counselor as well. And classroom teachers are participating in those lessons to be able to transition those skills to other aspects of the school day. We do have 2 school psychologists. The district pays half of each of their salary, and IDA funds pays the other half. And then the Growing Roots contract has been the licensed mental health. I asked Mrs. Beaton because it can get confusing, right? You've got guidance director, you've got an outreach counselor, you got a school counselor, like these all have different roles and responsibilities. So better understanding them. And so you had a handout that you gave everybody.
Yeah, so another little packet. So I think the top really delineates, by the different types of counselors, so this big blue packet. And so we delineate, and then behind, I'll kind of briefly talk about each one, and then stapled behind is really the national organization and the role description for school psychologists, for school counselors from their national organization. And Growing Roots sent us something from the licensed clinical mental health as well. So much more thorough for what's attached and sort of a snapshot of the different types of counselors and counseling and how that happens in a school. So, the school counselors are there for every student. Their caseload is alphabetical, 7 to 12 at the middle high. It's broken down by grades at ILES. So pre-K to grade 3 and grade 4 to grade 6. So they have those students for that amount of time. A school counselor, I would liken it to really a triage. They're trying to find the best fit for that student, and they certainly see students short-term in conjunction with Growing Roots. They still see those Growing Roots students for other items as well, but they're not therapeutic in nature. They're not diagnosing, they're not providing a therapeutic plan. So they're within the confine of the school. They're academically based. They're doing academic planning, post-secondary planning. The goal is short-term. The goal is to return to class, right? Because we're part of the academic progress. So that's what I would say how the school counselor would delineate. Or fine outreach counselor, I think of the word family, I think of the word community, I think of at risk. So I think of youth with alcohol, drug. She does a lot of intervention with students who have been part of situations like that. I think of suicide prevention. I think of, training different groups of people and bringing that back. So I think of the outreach really being that cord between the community and the families from the outreach. The school psychologist, different yet again, but has similarities. A lot of testing to determine eligibility for IEP, a lot of consultation with faculty and staff, a lot of consultation with families, a lot of consultation regarding 504s and different things that are happening with those plans. So again, provide school-based counseling, but not therapeutic, not diagnosing, not that long-range plan. And then we sort of land with our clinical mental health counselors, our growing roots counselors. Those are the folks who are providing that long-term therapeutic treatment plans. They're typically somehow community-based, and we're fortunate to have them here in our school, but they could be private practice. They could be Lakes Region Mental Health. They could be, part of different organizations as such. But they're really your therapeutic, and they're using some type of therapy or, some type of theory of therapy. So assess, diagnose, treat, more of that long-term counseling. They have specializations. Some work with younger, some work with teens, some specialize in anxiety or depression or eating disorders. So they can really have some really significant specializations and have had a lot more significant training in that area. So those sort of like the delineation that I see. Any questions? Lots of counselors. Thank you.
Yeah, about growing roots. So,
Yeah.
Just in what you were explaining, Mary, so they've been dealing with the insurance piece of it, and the school district has been paying only half of what, so their concern is that they can't do all of that, but will nobody be dealing with the insurance?
So then we would be paying for that.
Yeah,
That
that's
clinical
that's my challenge with this is, the need is so great, and this is a black hole, I think. I wouldn't be surprised next year to have you come back and say, we need more growing roots counselors, and for police forces, schools, have been taking on this issue of mental health. A pump insurance, such as it is, that is supposed to cover mental health, at least 10 visits, right? Depending on the coverage you've got, but to not use that coverage and to say to the public that we're now asking you to absorb that cost rather than a family is just opens up another kind of black hole for me. So I understand the need, and for a school to have the ability to provide long-term therapeutic relationship for students, but I just have trouble with absorbing, instead just not asking insurance.
And I don't think we could take on the insurance aspect. I don't
No,
know.
no.
I think that, HIPAA, all of that becomes a piece.
Yeah, Growing Roots would have to do that
Yeah.
piece of it, but
We can push, I feel like we pushed, and, I think the answer was, they really can't sustain the model that has happened.
so but they have to be doing this for other.
So they have some private schools that they work with.
I would also liken it to what's happening in the ambulance industry right now. that's been cut down so badly that they're going out of business.
Yeah.
Right.
And there will be a time when an ambulance will be called, nobody will come.
Yeah.
It's coming.
Mhm.
And I kind of look at this as maybe the same sort.
What I had hoped is, maybe we could get to a point that if the reimbursement from the insurance company is only $70, but they're paying 140, could we then just make up the difference?
Right.
They didn't seem to want to go down that road, but,
Going routes, you mean, but
it didn't seem to have progress with that. But again, I don't know how much it costs them on the other end to chase that $70.
They've got somebody in the back office. They're doing that. I can.
They do, I
Right.
just don't,
Right. How
again,
much,
that's a
yeah.
cost too, right?
is,
Somebody's
yeah.
being paid to do that, so.
Anyway, it's.
that's a conundrum.
Yeah, it is.
It is.
I'm sorry,
So it sounds
A
like,
conundrum.
and
who deals with burn routes? Is it Holly?
so it's been Holly, Elaine Dodge and I have been working with them.
Okay.
And we can go back and see,
Can you let them know that the board has some concerns about this?
I think that would be a
Some
helpful
more-
approach to say, maybe the temperature I got is people support the service. The payment process does not seem like something that's very tenable at this point. Is
Well,
there any
absorbing
more,
the whole cost.
is there any more way we can
Absolutely, yeah.
try to navigate this? So we are happy to do that. We should put our negotiating skills to the test. So.
Can I ask if there's any public input at this point?
Yeah, let me see.
Because I think we've gone past our.
Yeah, you've had it open for
I'm
an hour
gonna
and a half.
close it, yeah. I'm gonna close it if there's
Not-
not.
It's a close
Public
it
input.
happen.
No, you can, as long as you want.
I think the rest of it, I think we can close it at 7:32. Okay, proposed reduction of ILES classroom teacher by 1 FTE due to natural attrition and enrollment. Mrs. Moriarty?
So one of the things, as we prepared for the budget season this past year was to be thinking about natural attrition points. One has presented itself. We do have a classroom teacher who has resigned, will be relocating to the south. And so as we, take that moment to, look and reanalyze where we are with class sizes and our FTEs, it seems reasonable to reduce at this time that FTE. What I would say, my caution is always, kindergarten is always a fluctuating number, although we're trending. When 7 years ago, we were at 65 or so. That was our trend. We are trending more in the 40s at this stage. I don't know, that could adjust. But I think realistically, we're probably looking at eventually 3 classrooms per grade level. And so this is an opportunity to do that without having to look at a reduction in force.
Makes sense.
May I ask a procedural? I don't ever recall that motion being put in front of us on the reduction side. Is that something the board should make a motion to? Is
To,
required to reduce the FTEs by what?
or maybe the way to do is to not fill the open position. I guess
Yeah,
that's, maybe
better.
that's it at this time to, it was budgeted. I don't think, I think it's something I feel important to bring to the board because it is a change of number of classrooms we have at ILES. That I do think it's important that the board has an opportunity to speak to that as well as vote on that. But I think it's really looking to not fill that position at this time. Again, if kindergarten was to spike, I
I
think,
don't think we're gonna have to worry about that.
One reason to phrase it the way you did is that we had so much conversation around the time of the teacher's contract about the decline in enrollment.
Right.
So if our voting on this motion would be a message that says you know, this is a step in the direction of making the staffing closer to what, then I'd want to do that, I think, just for that reason. But if you want to take it slowly and say, we're just not filling this position, and then look more over time at some of that stuff.
So you have also on the backside of that memo does have the current policy relative to class size.
Yeah,
And I do just want to point out that, you know, where this will be felt is fourth grade, and class sizes will be about 21 to 20, which, again, is not outside of the policy.
No.
Is there a motion?
Didn't we make the motion and second it?
no.
No, we did
Okay,
not.
So moved.
The way it's written or a different
Yeah.
way?
Yeah,
I'm confused now.
I just put it on the agenda, but it sort of confused Vanessa.
I think it's fine.
I think it's
I'll
fine.
second it.
So are we saying motion to approve the reduction of the one?
Yeah.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Non-resident tuition waiver in accordance with professional employee agreement.
Move to approve.
Is there a second? All those in favor? Well, discussion has to be a non-public. Does it need to be a non-public?
If
should
it's
be.
specific, if it's about the contract, no, but if it's about specific requests,
This is for professional employee that's in their CBA. Do you want to go into non-public? We can.
No, it's just always been one of those issues that makes my hair stand up.
so it is part of the CBA, so,
And is it universally applied across the state, or is that?
no, I would,
that a
it is,
penny?
it is unique to Interlakes, I would say. There might be other districts that have,
Probably
well, what
other
I should say is I think Molten Borough has it, but they do charge a particular rate. So some places do have it in different varying degrees, but it is part of your negotiated contract.
Oh, I understand that. But it has 2.5 years left.
I think we
So
should
there's
go-
been a second. Can we vote? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Organizational chart is a draft for Sandwich Central School in your attachments.
So Mrs. Dollop has done a nice job trying to create a version specific to Sandwich Central School. We wanted some feedback. There was a request to do them for each school building. I have previously shared at SAU board meetings, school level or district level and SAU level. But we want to make sure that we are operating or creating something that is meeting what the question the board would like to answer with such a chart. And I do know that Mr. Baker, I think, had some thoughts on this, and I don't think we haven't had a chance to get feedback, so.
So we'll have him. Okay. That was just
I have one
information.
question. What's a .07 school nurse?
About 13 days out of the school year.
How does that work?
She comes out and does screenings.
And she's there for me when I need her.
Okay.
I can tell you,
But I was
Mr.
thinking
Hilker
13 days,
does-
She's got a meter on one of those 13 days.
I have not come to you guys yet and asked for the x-ray machine. That's next.
I will tell you, it's pretty impressive to watch him assess it. Concussion, not a concussion, what should I do?
Is it cheaper than electronic sign?
That's a good question. Is it x-ray machine? Probably not. But
No.
I call her, anything that makes me pause, I call her.
And she's available to you,
Always
which is
is.
great.
Yeah, and if I can't get her, I call Miss McCormick. That's the other one.
Yeah.
On the back of that chart, we did just put the line of responsibility. It's the policy in terms of
Yeah.
flow of kind of chain of command, so to speak.
All right. Nomination of professional staff, Mrs. Moriarty.
So you have in your packet the nomination. Actually, I think you already
did
that was apparently
I was
included
gonna say,
twice.
Why is
So,
it on here twice?
you know what? The hiring updated should just, that's an error.
Yeah.
So my apologies, but you already voted in the person.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's fine. We didn't
Thank you
need
for
to
your
go into
support.
non-public. All right, policy first readings. These are attachments 12 through 23. There's a lot here.
Yeah,
Where
there's tons.
where was attachment 7 in the dialogue?
So, I did give an overview of it. It was quick. So we are doing well in terms of hiring. So, that memo really outlines what we've had for openings and who we have, hired to fill them or ones that we're still working on filling.
Yeah, as I say, in 11 years, I've never seen a document like this that really lays out
Yeah.
item by item.
We thought it would be helpful.
Who and what do they do and why?
It gets busy, right? And so sometimes we're giving you that information on a basis.
What happened?
I didn't do that.
With the tick that got it.
But
And
good.
the new special ed teacher that
I got Mark.
That's all right.
here tonight is, Caitlin Hensley, is that?
That is the
That's the
replacement.
All that.
already did.
Oh, what?
Oh, Mark.
Charlie horse my leg.
Oh,
All right, let's stretch out.
So, yes, so ILES, will
We
be in
just
good
had the
shape
last two,
because they will only need to fill
the last one.
the last one, which at this stage is a paraeducator resignation. And we paraeducator contracts, Ashley, have they come back? When are they?
They're due back May 31st.
Okay,
Still a
so
little bit of time.
we will, we'll have, a better sense for the next meeting where we are relative to that.
That's great.
So are we on policy?
yes, and you need, yes.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the first reading of the following policies.
As this here.
Mhm, yes,
Yeah.
many of them.
That's right, we grind them out.
Yeah.
You really do.
Okay, so Charlie, is there a second?
Second.
Discussion.
Sure.
Attachment 7 in conjunction with this, are we doing or even to touch on exit interviews?
So we, did start exit interviews last year. And so with folks this year, we absolutely, yes.
Thank you.
And just because it came up earlier, I would call my colleagues' attention, policy BDD-R, Board Superintendent Relations. That's a good reminder for our responsibilities. We have a policy about it.
We do have a policy.
BDDR,
Is it? What number?
What page number?
What
It's
page?
page
attachment-
4,
it's
top
attachment
item, down 4.
19.
Thank you, got it.
In fact, Mary, would you do me a favor and please send that out to the whole board electronically?
Sure.
And just, because Duncan and I and Craig, I think, did talk about maybe making sure the whole
Yeah.
board specifically really paid attention to that.
And you'll notice there's school nurses, which is a required policy that we have not had, and we do meet, even with our current staffing, we do meet the requirement. Seated.
Any other discussions here?
I had one question about the exit interview. One, which was so the shift is from Human Resources Director to Superintendent or Superintendent's designee. Your designee could be Ashley,
Yes.
right? So,
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Mrs. Moriarty, rescind motion to approve rescinding following policies. So policy 3275, emergency care and first aid, and policy 5170, proof of residency.
And they have been, they're included elsewhere, so they were, and with the proof of residency, again, it was in multiple locations, it came into one clean policy, so sunsetting these, is helpful.
And it also corresponds with the School Board Association, which is what our overarching goal is.
yeah, could tell that.
That is our goal.
I noted that, but
Okay, so
I'd make a motion to
motion.
rescind
Charlie,
the following
Second.
Second.
I'll give it to Barbara this
Got
time.
it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Correspondence?
You already called.
I already did that.
It's on twice.
It's on
Yeah.
twice. I already closed the
Yeah,
public
perfect.
comments.
Non-public.
Non-public, because of RSA 91A:3C includes matter which if discussed in public would likely affect adversely the reputation of any person other than a member of this board. RSA 91A:3I. This includes matters relating to the preparation for and the carrying out of emergency functions.
Oh, yes, Carol?
Yes.
Mr. Billings?
Yes.
I am yes. Ms. Thomas?
Yes.
We're in non-public.
Thank you, everyone.
Good night.
Have a good night.
Yeah, Jeremy. Oh, Jeremy.
I feel so much.
They didn't-
Oh, it does.
They don't know where.
You will, but don't, you won't, don't have one. I don't know how they do it. Come out in the woods most every day, I'm looking. It's the little, it's the one that's